talking about the pro alcohol or the benefit of consuming alcohol. So to begin with, alcohol is made by yeast ferments that have been decomposed without the use of oxygen in the different sugars within inside different foods. So what I'm trying to say, or an example, is wine is made by the composition of grapes, and then beer from a grain called barley. Now, going into what makes a drink or beverage a one standard drink is by containing 0.6 ounces of pure ethanol. So, seen here in the picture, we have wine, we have beer, we have wine cooler, we have all different type of beverages, and they all measure different type of ounces. Like 5, 12, 10. So, even though they all measure different types of ounces, they all contain the same amount of pure ethanol, which is the 0.6. Now, the chemistry or the background of ethanol. So, alcohol is a chemical compound that has a carbon atom or various carbons to where it's called a hydroxyl or oxygen and hydrogen bonded together. So we have three different types of hydroxyl. So the very first one only has one carbon atom, and this one can be identified as, like an example, a red wine. And now those that have two carbon atoms is like a beer, and then those that have a three atoms is called glycerol, and it's like a clear, almost odorless liquid that has a sweet aftertaste. So when I was researching, I also found out that during the process of consumption, it is seen that alcohol affects cells, but what they do not tell you is that during the same process of dissolving lipids, the alcohol kills microbial cells. And so it's very convenient, or it's very good, is because it disinfects and also it antiseptics and antiseptics. So here's a little quote: whiskey and ice and everything is nice. um, how can how can alcohol be considered a drug? So the ethanol of alcoholic beverages is somewhat less toxic than other alcohols. Sufficiently diluted and taken slowly, these actions causes ease in the brain and helps out social interactions and make euphoria, which is a state of intense happiness induced by a extremely pleasurable experience. So, because due to this, alcohol can be considered a drug, because the meaning of drug is being any substance that, when taken into a living organism, modifies one or more of its functions. Another thing I was able also to find out was how a body gets affected by alcohol faster when the person has not consumed anything. The reason is because once the ethanol is inside our system, it goes right through the stomach walls and then directly into the bloodstream. And whereas when a person has already consumed food, I mean the stomach is busy trying to digest the food that's already in there, and then later on breaks down the ethanol. So additional information is that a beverage that we should consume that has a benefit for our health is the red and white wine, preferably the red. And this is due to the antioxidants that they provide, which helps us out by fortifying or improving damaged cells called polyphenols, and their job is to help out our heart health. The population that should not be consuming alcohol is 15 and below. And the reason why is because the brain has not fully developed until they meet their 20s, as well as earlier consumption can cause a higher increase of the consumer to become an alcoholic. Another thing is that we can break down a drinkers into two categories: the problem drinker and the moderate drinker, and also a heavy drinker. So a problem drinker is when under the influence of alcohol, they have a negative outcome to it. So they become very aggressive, or very verbally and physical. So as stated, as before, a moderate or a good amount of consuming alcohol would be one drink for women and two for men within the day. And then a heavy drinker would be classified when a woman drinks over 7 drinks a week, and then for a man it's 14. And then for the pro alcohol portion of this is the benefits that we have is that it helps reduce the development and dying of heart disease. So this also helps in the decrease of the ischemic stroke, which is when the arteries of the brain can become clogged, which then gives out a decrease in blood flow. It also helps out in the decrease of getting diabetes and metabolic and dementing illnesses. The reason how Southern Medical Journal was able to find this out is they made a research of containing 87,000 men, and they had diabetic and non-diabetic people in that survey, and they found out that it benefited both sides of the party, and it helped them. They found that it decreases the chances of getting CHD or coronary heart disease. And then Mayo Clinic made a moderate amount of alcohol like consumption, which is, as I said, mentioned before, one drink for women and two for men. And then another thing, what they also find out is, for example, one of the researchers we have is like the beer for the 12 fluid ounces, the wine, the 5 fluid ounces, and the distilled spirits and stuff like that. So that concludes the end of my slides. These are just my resources. Thank you.